A spiritual practice is a form of deliberate practice, requiring intention, repetition or regularity, and depth. Worship is a spiritual practice and offers a number of practices within it: music, quiet, sharing, reflection, listening, and on and on. Back in January, a number of us gathered for a workshop on the topic of everyday spiritual practices. We reflected on opportunities we have in day-to-day moments to use our breath, attention, and bodies to bring a spiritual lens to everyday activities, to practice mindfulness. Bringing spiritual practice into the day-to-day can change the way we look at mundane chores and tasks. We even had some folks practicing while dusting the sanctuary that day. And I promised them it was for a good purpose. An everyday spiritual practice doesn't have to be mundane. It could be yoga practice, sitting in meditation, drawing, writing, singing, when approached with a spiritual intention. It can also be a practice that we use when encountering particular situations. Attention to our breath when we're frustrated at work or stuck at a traffic light, or cultivating compassion when encountering strangers at the grocery store. While I was on sabbatical from the congregation last year, at my day job, we were running an event that was a reunion for multiple years of alumni because of COVID delays, so we had 3 years of alums all coming at the same time. We called it Mega Reunion. To help us get through, we hired a bunch of folks to help us out for a couple of weeks before and during the event. Most of the people who were helping were either related to or friends of our staff, and it was a huge blessing. One of the folks was a nephew of a colleague who was a really great human being and great at jumping in to help wherever he was needed, which in event planning is a character trait worth more than anything. Often when he offered to cover something, if I hesitated, he would say, "Carol, take yes for an answer." In my last newsletter column before I was on sabbatical, I had written those exact words, that I was going to work on taking yes for an answer. So when all of these folks who were hustling and learning everything on the fly offered to schlep across campus on a golf cart to deal with nonsense so staff could handle another kind of problem, I said yes, and thank you. I have approached this idea of taking yes for an answer, of accepting help, as a spiritual practice, meaning that I have made it a practice to still myself and pay attention when my instinct is to say no, and to breathe through to understand why. I've practiced letting go of guilt and feelings that I should be able to do all the things, and embraced gratitude. I don't say yes to everything, but this practice has been such a gift, especially because I struggle with spiritual practices that involve stillness. So far, I have found it almost impossible to settle into traditional meditation. If I use a mantra or a repeated phrase like breathe in, breathe out, sometimes I can get closer. When I'm walking in the woods, I experience gratitude and wonder, which are also a practice, but they are moments of pause and expansion within an ongoing running narrative in my brain. When I'm singing, I often feel plugged into joy and connection in ways like nothing else. The closest I ever get to stillness is in the practice of bringing mindfulness to a repetitive task, like cleaning my kitchen floor. With such a focused task, my brain can take a back seat and chill out while I'm present to the task at hand. Circle, wipe, circle, wipe. My invitation today is not for you to do what I do, but to take some time to think about what you do already and where and how you might cultivate more moments of mindfulness and spiritual connection. Perhaps you've been engaged in a spiritual practice for years, Or perhaps you have struggled to stick with something. What would it be like to ask yourself every morning or evening, what is something I am grateful for in this moment? What would it be like to bring mindfulness, attention, and intention to something you're already doing every day, maybe your dinner dishes, and be present to that process, to pay attention to the water on your hands, the scrubbing of a pan, to consider the places of interconnection that bring you to this moment every day. You might reflect on the folks who made the dish that you're cleaning, the warmth of the water, where your water has been and will go, your breath in and out. Mindfulness in moments like these can help us build our resilience, cultivate gratitude, and help us feel our connections to all that is. All of these things and more can help us to feel more centered and well, more likely to breathe in peace and breathe out love. These are all different kinds of spiritual practices. They don't look the same for every person, and they change and adapt with us. You have likely heard me say a million times that the key to any spiritual practice is the emphasis on the second word, practice. Practice means that we will have failures and mistakes. It means that we will fall short, and through that experience, we can learn more about ourselves and our connection to all that is. When I notice that I'm holding on too tightly to some kind of ideal of perfection or expectation of success, even on spiritual ideas, which is the worst, I remember this poem from Wendell Berry. The love and work of friends and lovers belong to the task and are its health. Rest and rejoicing belong to the task and are its grace. Let tomorrow come tomorrow. Not by your will is the house carried through the night. Not by your will is the house carried through the night. Working on letting go of attachment to perfection, to doing things right, and instead being present to what is the work of a lifetime and part of how mindfulness and attention in the day-to-day can help us. When things are particularly challenging or when joy and connection are hard to find, we are not alone, and sometimes a small practice can have a big impact to help us feel that connection again. I invite you as you go through your day today to pause briefly in a task and pay attention to your breath and just see what comes up for you. Perhaps an invitation to deeper reflection and connection, or maybe just that pause itself, and then again and again. That practice of pause and attention can be an opening for mindfulness, growth, and connection. However we connect with the holy, with wonder, with the web of life, may we find ways that help us through this challenging work of being human together. So may it be, and amen.